Right, let's crack on and see where we can possibly get some money to make this stuff happen from, particularly in Eden. So let's cross to Kate Gergel, who is, I think I'm going to call you the Arts Officer for Eden District Council, Kate. I don't know if I got that right. I am. That's great. You're nodding. I've got your slides, so the floor is yours to tell us about what's going on in Eden. Over to you, Kate.
Great. Okay, so I'll just wait for the slide. Right. So Eden District Council have allocated this year 112,000 for basically to support projects that widen the community participation in the arts. So it's quite a wide brief. Unfortunately for some of the people on this call, it is for projects that are based in Eden. I think we could, if you are an artist who has strong connections with Eden and wants a project in Eden, I think it'd be worth applying. But basically, we've got the funding is available just for this year. As you know, we're coming up to local government reorganisation, and Eden District Council will cease to be after April next year. So this is hopefully not a bit of a last hurrah for Eden District Council, but hopefully, you know, it's obviously we don't know what's happening after April, but we're hoping to get some really good projects to basically showcase the people that are working in Eden and give them an opportunity to realise some of their projects. So, could I have the next slide, please, Tom? Thanks. So basically, the arts and culture projects have to happen within Eden. They could be across all art forms. We're not being prescriptive about that. I mean, in some ways, we're opening ourselves up a bit with that one because, you know, we don't know what we're going to get, but we're happy to consider any art form at this stage. That you can apply for projects, you can apply for workshops, services or events or any one of those sort of, I mean, some of the projects that have come to us already kind of fall sometimes between projects and services or events, but we're quite open to see what comes in, really. We don't want to kind of shut things down, so it has to be for a very prescriptive set of activities. And as I said, all art forms considered. I mean, we've put visual arts, literary arts, music, digital arts, performing arts, crafts, and arts for health and well-being. But if you're doing something outside of that, then, you know, as long as it's considered an art form, then we'll consider it. Can I have the next slide, please, Tom? So what we fund, if you come to us, we want to see that your project is a new project. If, for example, you've run an event in the past, and you're thinking, right, we might want to apply for some funding for that, we'd consider it, but as long as there was a new aspect to it, or for example, you've run it as a test, a pilot project before, and you wanted to run it again, but with sort of different and developed elements to it, we consider that. Probably the main thing that we're trying to encourage is active participation of the community in the arts. So if you've got a project that basically is aimed at getting more people involved in the arts, and you know, either by producing art or getting to experience artistic events, then that's what we're interested in. And obviously, if you can also include, maybe slightly underrepresented groups or sort of older people or younger people within Eden, then that will certainly add to the application. If we're particularly, yeah, thanks. Yeah, we're particularly interested in things that are site specific or outdoor art, and cultural activity. That sort of thing will be particularly welcomed. And projects that develop partnerships between local cultural organisations, again, be really good. But essentially, I think that the core message is that we want to widen participation, community participation in the arts. Could I have the next slide, please? So if you're applying to us, the minimum grant is £500 and the maximum is up to £10,000. However, if you had a project that's over £10,000 but can demonstrate exceptional impact, we'd consider that as well. So you do need to match fund it. A 20% match funding is required, although 10% of that can be in kind. So in terms of volunteer time, or if it's a project, it could be materials, things like that. But we would need to have some of the funding would have to come from outside, although it could be funding that you've raised yourself if you're an organisation that does fundraising activities yourself, or possibly could generate income through the activity. Could I have the next slide, please? Right, so these are the next two deadlines. There's one on the 23rd of September and one on the 20th of January. And the decision will be made by the end of October. If I don't know whether any of you have applied to Eden District Council for funding before to the Communities Fund, which some of you might have done, and that tended to be quite a long-winded process, but we're lucky this time that this week we've made this process slightly shorter. So once the panel has met to make the decision, we can let you know, and we can release funding if they've decided to fund you. And can I have the final slide, please? And this is the contact details for the fund, really. Please pass it around. If you're not in Eden or not intending to work in Eden, then you know, please pass it on to people who you think might be interested. As I say, unfortunately, because we're coming towards the end of Eden District Council as an entity, and we haven't, you know, I don't know what's happening in the, you know, with the new authority. I can't say this is going to be here next year, but we're very keen to spend all the money this year and make an impact, and for basically for the, you know, the community of sort of creative people in Eden to get the most benefit out of this bit of a windfall. So get in touch. If you're not sure if you're eligible, the best thing to do is to email me at artsandculture@eden.gov.uk and just ask the question. I could give you a ring, have a chat about it. It's usually the easiest way to do it. If you go to the website, Eden District Council's website, you can find the kind of all the details of the fund. If you can't remember that great big long address, then just go onto the Eden District Council website and search for Arts and Culture Development Fund. Yeah, so to any questions? I think there was one in the chat saying from Stefan saying about the delivery. No, the delivery, it doesn't have to be all done and dusted by April 2023. Basically, as long as the application has been accepted and ideally the first payment paid out, or at least the project started before the end of the financial year, that's fine if it goes over the financial year.
Kate, if you've got a county-wide project, which obviously covers Eden, is that a relevant application?
I think as long as you could, I mean, as I say, it's a new fund, so I think there will be a little bit of suck it and see in terms of the panel. But I think what we've done with previous pots of money within Eden is if there's a county-wide project that has an element in Eden, as long as you can prove the funding from Eden is being spent in Eden, then that's fine. So, for example, a proportion of the admin costs that be Eden-based and maybe for activities that are happening in Eden, then that would be acceptable, I think.
Thank you. Amy?
Yeah, I just wanted to check. I think you mentioned something about applicants having a connection to Eden. So if you're, for instance, based in Carlisle, but the project was to take place in Eden, would you still have to have a personal connection to Eden in order to apply for the fund, or is it more just about the project taking place in Eden?
One of the things I should say, it's actually not in the slides, but it's in our criteria, is that individual artists can't really apply on their own. It's because it's not for the development of a personal practice. So generally we're saying that an organisation, say for example you're working with a community group, they can act as an accountable body, and then in effect they would be putting the application, and the artist fees would be included in the application, and they could be for whoever they want to get in to deliver that work. We're generally saying that it has to be a kind of a constituted organisation to apply for the funding. But if you're doing community related work, it's quite unusual just to be a lone person and not be attached to either community group or another organisation to do your work. So
two questions in chat, one from Rosie for you, Kate. What if you have a good idea but you're struggling with match funding?
I think unfortunately the match funding is quite a is a bit of a prerequisite. I would say that it depends where. Probably the best thing to do is to give me a ring about it. But as I say, I mean, we're imagining we're getting applications in from either cultural organisations or community organisations, or even things like parish councils and town councils, people like that. And they quite often we'd expect that there'd be some sort of contribution from the community who are sort of hosting the work. So, for example, if you had citing in a parish and or a particular area, they've got a parish council. The parish councils have their own budgets, and it's a kind of a way of proving that there's some sort of connection wider than just you wanting to do the project. But yes, we would need some sort of match funding. But say 10% of it can be in kind if it's hard to actually get the cash.
Okay, and the question from Tish, is the money split equally between the 2 rounds, or is it just used up till it's gone?
It's just used up till it's gone. But I think we're probably more worried about not spending it all than we are spending it all at the moment. So I think just we've had one round which it's been quite a sort of rush to get through, mainly because we've got this sort of deadline of the end of the year. So we've had the first round already, but we obviously, because it was the first round and we hadn't advertised it a lot at that stage, we haven't had that many applications through. So there is money there will be money in the pot, even if the ones that we in this round are successful. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I wouldn't worry too much,
because Eden becomes part of Westmoreland and Furness, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
So,
yeah.
so that whole kind of what's Barrow got to do with Penrith sort of argument, and how will that's going to be an interesting one. Obviously for May onwards. So I can see why now is the moment to be hot on this and get it out the door, kind of thing.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
All right. Karen asks, can a community group put its own money as 10%?
Of course, yes, yeah.
Workshops for Lakeland Fiddlers.
Yeah, the only funding we wouldn't accept is other funding from Eden District Council. So if you'd got a grant from Eden District Council or something else, and then you thought, I'll match it with a grant from Eden District Council, we wouldn't accept that. But any other money is acceptable, as long as it's legal, obviously.
Okay, and probably the last one, Rosie asks again, does partnering with a charity count?
Yes, yeah, if they're constituted, that's absolutely yeah, fine, as long as they're willing to act as the accountable body, which would mean that we would pay the funding to them and then they would pay out to you. That would be fine. Yeah.
All right, Kate, well, thank you for highlighting that this morning. I know you've put some stuff out on Facebook and probably many other channels as well. So I just highlight to everybody, if it's not for you, but you might know of an organisation that might be interested in this, then please do spread the word. And Kate, if you could perhaps, Amy's very kindly put a link to the information in chat. And Kate, perhaps you could just put your contacts into chat once more in case people want to follow up as well.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'm afraid I'm going to have to head off shortly after this, because I've actually got to drive down to Norfolk today. So I'm on holiday, but not camping. So I will. I'll put my details into chat. I'll be back not next week, the week after, so I can pick up any emails then if people want to ask more, and I'll give you a ring.
Excellent detail.
Okay.
May the sun shine in Norfolk for you, Kate. Nice to see you. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Right. So there's a lump of money that may be of interest to you if you can get your hands on it. So thanks to Kate for that. But there's also, hopefully, part of the whole point of the network is to support the arts and cultural community and heritage community here in the county. And one of the people and organisations that is keen to do that is the Cumbria LEP, which Lynsey Parke is connected to. So we're now going to hear from Lynsey, perhaps 15-20 minutes or so, just about what it is that she can do to support you in your cultural practice, and also perhaps some questions from her to you about what sort of things would be of use from the Cumbria LEP as well. So Lynsey, again, I'll dig your slides up and the floor is yours.
Brilliant, thank you, Tom. Good morning, everybody. I must apologise in advance. I've tested myself for COVID this morning. Thankfully, it's come back negative, but I feel pretty rotten and I'm coughing quite a bit. So I'll try not to interrupt the meeting, the session too much, but apologies if I do that. And I think, I was just going to pick up on something that Kate was talking about, that we'll get into the presentation in a second, but the question that was asked around opportunities to partner. when we're supporting individual artists or smaller businesses, we actually often talk about having a view of where the funds are and how you can take your offer to an organisation that has the funding and be able to connect the two. So, you know, hopefully through the presentation, you'll see some of the ways that we can support with some of this stuff. So yeah, really just wanted to talk this morning about the business support offer that we've got for creative industries, and it's to some extent it's more of an open discussion. What I wanted to try and do here is talk you through who we are and what we offer. I have presented previously and shared a little bit around the sort of core programme, how we work, given some examples of organisations within the sector that we've worked with. What we really want to try and dig down in this session is what works for you, and so a little bit of an overview at first, and then a few sort of questions. So feel free to chip in, and open and honest with us would be fantastic. I think if we're going to get this right, then it needs to be what you need, not what I think you need. It's very much a two-way conversation, this one, hopefully. So yeah, next slide, please, Tom. Great stuff. And a couple of these slides I have shared previous sessions, so they may be familiar to you. This one I think is really important. We find often that arts organisations, perception is that they're not seen as kind of normal businesses, normal in inverted commas. I think for me, in that perception, it doesn't make you any less valuable in what you bring to the community. And I appreciate actually that a lot of business support can feel a bit formulaic. I often get a lot of feedback from businesses that will say it doesn't apply to me. Excuse me. I don't feel like I fit in. Don't appreciate the needs of my business. And actually sometimes with arts organisations, particularly smaller practices, I don't consider myself a business. So that kind of mindset shift, if you like, to some of that sort of stuff. And I really want to try and change that. Our offer, which I'll come on to in a second, is county-wide. It's sector agnostic, so anybody at all that's in business, regardless of size, is welcome to the support and guidance. It's really, really important to me that that people realise that and know how to access it if it's needed. The needs of every business that we support are unique. Aspirations are different. Progress in terms of where you've got to with your business will differ for everybody that we're supporting, and also the opportunities you see as individual business owners or business leaders. So I think for us, whether you're a one-man, one-woman band or a larger arts organisation, you're as entitled as anyone else to access the support and guidance that you need to help you shape and grow your business. For me, it's kind of as straightforward as that. Next slide, please, Tom. Thank you. So what can we offer? Hopefully this is the boring bit. I'll try and get into a little bit more from here on in. So we, as an organisation, the business support programme is funded by central government. So there's no cost for our time and what I hope is expertise. We can support from one individual all the way up to 250 employees. Obviously, the core of our work here in Cumbria is at the lower end of that, but it's very much focused on business growth. Growth doesn't have to be about you know, wanting to be at the upper end of that kind of spectrum, if you like. You know, growth can be about certainly at this moment in time actually about being sustainable and being able to get back to where you were pre-pandemic, and looking at what's right for you in terms of what you want your business to become. The advice and guidance that we give is very much tailored. So every conversation that we have will have a different start point and very much a different end point. And the action plans that we pull together, in inverted commas, are unique to every business that we're working with. It's very much about understanding who you are, what you're trying to achieve, and what we can do to support you with that. And we also offer a range of workshops. And with the workshop stuff, as we get into some of the questions that I've tried to capture here, just try to think about what you need as creative practitioners, rather than what might already be available on a website, or, you know, I really want to sort of open the discussion up around what you need for your own businesses. Next slide, please, Tom. Thank you. So I share this one quite a lot, whoever I'm speaking to, and I think I shared it on the last presentation I did here. We make it our job to understand the breadth of support that's available, saving you time and giving you freedom to focus on running your business. We fully understand the challenges of running a business, you know, from sourcing materials, payments, marketing, staffing issues if you're in that position, and in a lot of instances, particularly with smaller businesses, that can often all be done by one and the same person. So trying to find the time, first of all, to look at what support's available, and then knowing how to go about undertaking some of that research. I fully appreciate how hard that can be. My view with business support and the sort of wider ecosystem is that it isn't complicated, it's just noisy. And our job really is about helping you make sense of that. So through the process that we go through, being able to help you find the relevant products or services or funders or whatever it might be that are relevant to you in your own journey. At a really basic level, we're a signposting service, but I hope that we are much more than that. But certainly at a very base level, it's about almost having somebody on the sidelines looking at the support that you know, understanding what you want to do with your business and being able to connect you into that support. So doing that legwork for you in that regard. So yeah, next slide, please, Tom. Okay, how do we go about doing that in terms of understanding your unique needs, I guess, for your own business? And it's dead simple. We ask loads of questions, but hopefully in an informal, friendly kind of way. Myself, my fellow advisors are really curious about businesses that we support. What we really want to do through these programs is dig down into who are you, where are you now with your business, where are you trying to get to, where do you see the opportunities, where are the challenges that you're facing, what's working currently, what isn't, around every aspect of your business. So from the sort of broader business planning piece, working on the business rather than in the business, looking at the growth potential that you've got and your own aspirations around that. As I say, there's no right or wrong there, it's just knowing what you want. We look at things around business identity, so marketing, help to identify and manage clients, business model reviews, looking at staffing, again, if you're at that stage of growth, help to develop networks, access to finance and funding. And as the example from Kate earlier, with the offer from Eden District Council, we have that kind of view of what's going on within the marketplace, both locally and nationally. So how can we connect you into those? And again, think of us as those kind of eyes and ears in that sense. Next slide, please, Tom. Okay. So kind of curious here to want to understand who's accessed support from an external organisation. It doesn't have to be us, but has anybody had support previously? Probably quite hard to get hands up and stuff, but anybody kind of willing to chip into any experience, or is it fair to assume that you probably haven't had the support?
Lynsey, I've had support as a freelancer, so not really in my arts practice, but I am a freelancer in creative business anyway. So I've had support from Cumbria Chamber of Commerce, and I did find that helpful. I think, yeah, it's funny because it's not something I've thought of with my art practice. So what you're saying today has definitely made me think about that. And yeah, CLEP sounds like they've got a lot of help on offer, but support in general for a freelancer when you're working on your own, it's really great to get some support, mentorship, different ideas, different people's viewpoints on your business, because you lose sight of it when you're just on your own, I think. So I would definitely recommend it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Amy. And Rosie, how about yourself?
Yeah, I contacted. I joined the Chamber of Commerce last year, and I got help from Cumbria Growth Hub, and I actually was put in touch with a fantastic woman who helped me with marketing of my. Basically looked at my artist website and opportunities and what my core message was and how I was presenting myself to people, and it was really good just in terms of making me less woolly in how I was approaching people. And actually on the back of that, you know, I've had quite a few successes last year. So it was really good. Just help with marketing and just understanding as a fine artist, just looking at opportunities that I wouldn't normally consider from somebody else's point of view was quite interesting. So yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. And I promise everybody, I didn't plant Rosie or Amy to give us those bits of feedback. It is genuine. Yeah, brilliant. So next slide, please, Tom. We've kind of covered that, I guess, in what Amy and Rosie both said there. But I think for me, with the business support stuff, what's really, really important here is that we develop an offer or can provide the support and guidance that you need. You know, as I said at the beginning, we think we know where some of the gaps are and some of the challenges are, but actually how does that evolve and change? And are we continuing, you know, over the weeks and months ahead and hopefully years ahead to be able to support that? As your needs change, as opportunities change, then, you know, if we need to tweak the way that we provide that support and guidance, then, you know, we continually want to hear that. I think, you know, I've got a couple of notes here that I've kind of said. If you have experienced support in any shape or guidance, in any shape or form, and you want to share any of those experiences, good, bad, indifferent, by all means, drop me an email. You know, again, very happy to reflect on them and look at ways that we can address some of those, either continue to develop them if they were successful, or change them if you feel the format doesn't work for you. And then next slide, please, Tom. Okay. So again, certainly one to reflect on. If anybody's kind of wants to answer any of this now while we're on the call, it'd be fantastic. But yeah, what are the biggest challenges in your practice today? So in the work that you're doing, whether you're a one-woman band or you've got a team behind you, what are the issues that you're seeing? What's providing the challenges? Where do you see the opportunities, but you might appreciate a little bit of support and guidance to help you realise some of those? Anybody, any thoughts they want to share? Got all shy again. No worries. Stefan.
Hi, Lynsey. I didn't reply to your previous question because I realised it's very hard to find time to seek the support that I know I need to run the business, because I'm spending all my time keeping the business going project to project. And capacity is the biggest challenge. And just pushing that boulder, that first couple of inches to get it going down the hill, or whatever image you want, just getting going beyond that sort of survival mode of project to project feels immensely tough, because unlike bigger organizations that might have a whole department dedicated to that, I don't have any of that. Yeah, so there you go. That's the biggest challenge, just getting going with a knowing there's a bigger picture to be addressed, and finding time to address those questions.
Yeah, if it's any comfort, it's probably fairly normal if businesses of kind of your shape and size. I wouldn't say there's an easy answer to it, but we can certainly provide some support and guidance in that sense around. And I know sometimes it's about finding that time to have those conversations, but you know, happy to share some things. And I guess what I would say with this stuff, guys, it doesn't have to be about 3, 4, 5 hours out of the business. You know, if you want to drop me an email and say this is what I've got an issue with, or I see an opportunity with, any ideas, correspond by email. You know, when you can read it at your leisure. And the other side of it, which I'll come on to in a later slide, is we really want to be more visible through things like the Facebook group, through our website, through the Arts and Culture Network website. So any sort of common themes that we're seeing, you know, we'll start to address those for you. But yeah, brilliant, thank you. George?
Hello, yes, thanks. I think one of the biggest challenges for us at the moment is just thinking about the future in terms of environmental impact. And what decisions we need to be making in the next few years about our energy and about also about what we do to try and keep people able to come to us as a adult residential college with people coming from all over the country. Of course, it's, you know, the thought about what steps do we take which are right for the environment and to provide support for people, say, coming in electric vehicles, rather than just throwing ourselves onto the into the market for all these private concerns who will be offering various services. It's hard to know which is the right sensible path to take. A few years ago, of course, it was, you know, whether you go with biomass or various other things, but of course things come and things go, don't they? So some advice and help in trying to develop what the strategy should be for things like that would be really, really helpful.
Great stuff. Yeah, no problem. So just kind of picking up on that, we have a member of the team, a decarbonisation manager, which these awful job descriptions that come up. Essentially, what Brian's there to do, my colleague, is to help our small business community to look at routes to on that kind of journey to net zero, if you like, what's right for you and your business. So yeah, very happy to pick up on that kind of stuff, George. And again, very, very topical at the moment for a significant number of the businesses that we're working with. Yeah, so very happy to help with that. And the one thing that I would say with our work is we are independent. So we have no, we're not aligned to any one organisation. We cover both the commercial offer and the government funded programme. So we've got that visibility kind of in a very broad sense, and our job really is about connecting you into the right support and guidance. You know, I've had a bit of feedback actually from business. It was in relation to net zero in this particular instance, but around, you know, I've had loads of people visiting me, but they've all got their own commercial drivers. So we are very much trying to separate that out and provide that independence for you. But yeah, great. Okay, so Danielle, you got a question or a thought?
Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button. Yeah, my biggest struggle is like the paper, trying to, when you're doing all like small bits of commissions, and then it's trying to keep on top of it, like, because I'm a working mum with 2 kids under 7, in the middle of getting a divorce, trying to work out how to get a mortgage to buy my husband out, and trying to work out how to be sustainable with the work that I'm coming in, but keep on top of the paperwork, because I'm dyslexic. It takes me longer to do paperwork and bloody admin. So it's like, so with the business side of stuff, that's where I would really need some help and support and guidance, because I don't like asking for help, because but I need the help and support to know what and how I can survive, basically, especially with this blooming net zero malarkey and cost of living and all that business. So yeah, so if you've got any answers to know how to make things easier with paperwork and be a bit more efficient with it, any little hacks?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Danielle, around efficiency and whatever sector you're in, that's a really, really important issue at the moment. I think, you know, whether it's use of digital tools or the processes, there are lots of things that we can support and guide you with on that. So yeah, happy to, I guess, you know, with everybody here, very happy to pick up separately on conversations. We'll dig down a little bit deeper individually. But,
yeah. If anyone wants to inbox me, or I'll put my email in the chat, so if anyone knows anything that they can send me, that would be marvellous.
Definitely, fantastic. Andrew?
Yeah, I wanted to agree with what Stefan was saying around and this is really about artist sole traders rather than big organizations. But I also work for an organization of 2 people, and finding the time to devote to exploring something new is really difficult. So there are issues around around that, around sort of capacity, and connected with that is trying to find the time and money for R&D. It's a sort of perennial problem for artists, makers, is to find the time and money for R&D. And I struggled, I you know, for 40 years, I suppose, going back to the late 80s, I've sought help from various government funded schemes around how to develop a sort of business practice aligned to creative practice. And it's always been a challenge, and it doesn't seem to have got that much easier. And it's partly to do with the language we use. And it's very easy for that first statement you put up about, I can't think what it was now, the art is a business like any other, is a sort of, in some ways, it's a bit fatuous. There's a truth there that allows us to make some progress, but it's also not true in many cases. And I think the language we use, both in the arts and in business, sometimes make it very difficult for us to really fully understand what it is we're dealing with, and how we can best support each other. And we don't talk to each other enough, for a start, from different sectors, and we really should be doing that a little bit more. But when push comes to shove, most real artists continue doing what they do in a way that most people who run a business wouldn't continue what they do if the thing didn't work in terms of being a business. And I think there's a fundamental difference in that. But I'm not saying that, you know, artists don't function within a sort of commercial capitalist environment. Of course they do. But I think there are some fundamental differences that make it sometimes difficult both to communicate with each other and to fully understand our place within both culture and the economy. And I think we're missing real opportunities because we never quite seem to get over those hurdles. So I suppose this is a plea to try and find a mechanism for us being able to fully understand and appreciate exactly what we're talking about. We tend to hide behind language rather than use the language to illuminate what we're really talking about. And I'm fully aware that I've abused language in that, trying to explain what I'm thinking, which is why I'm a musician and not a writer.
No, that makes perfect sense, Andrew. I don't have the answers today. I think
I don't expect to.
You know, for me, it's why we're here. You know, it's about what's really important for me with the business support stuff, however you define it, is it's about those relationships. So understanding the sector that you're working with, the opportunities for that cross-sector engagement. It's what we do. It's what I do in my role. It's something I'm really passionate about in my role. I think it's what we're starting to see more of within the LEP in a broader sense. And you know, with my business support hat on, maybe that's the wrong wording. But for me, it's about relationships. And the last slide that I've got kind of starts to talk a little bit about that. We want to be part of I want to be part of your world, this world. Understand the language, understand the challenges, and be able to support you in a way that helps you to move forward. And that isn't always about bottom line profit. I fully appreciate that, but it's about understanding those needs and drivers and being able to shape a support offer that enables you to meet whatever your needs are. But yeah, no, that's brilliant. Thank you, Rosie, and then I'll move on to the next slide from there.
Okay, I just put something in the chat, but basically for me, the biggest issue is audience development in Cumbria. You know, because I work on the more conceptual end of artistic practice. And I've got to a point where I'm starting to look outside of Cumbria. I'm looking down in London and places like that, but it would be really nice to have support or an understanding of how to develop people's tastes in art, in you know, contemporary cultural practice within the county itself, and to say, you know, that art's more than a landscape for Cumbria. That and it's just maybe having support to develop those opportunities, to invite people in, to get maybe the business world and people, you know, other entrepreneurs who maybe don't know about art, to come in, and, you know, ways to integrate them into what we're doing, and for them to see how we can enhance their lives and you know, their businesses in other ways as well. And I think that's something I struggle with, and a lot of things quite often fall flat in Cumbria. You know, like there's things start and people, you know, are enthusiastic about it, but then there's just not a market to sustain it. There's not sales, especially, and that's really hard. And I mean, obviously right now it's a really difficult time with the cost of living crisis and everything else, but I think just sort of looking at ways to build that, to put in place events, opportunities, you know, rather than it always having to come from the grassroots and then only getting so far and then failing because, you know, like Amy said in the chat, you're constantly working, you're constantly working to create opportunities and to apply for things, and that's time that you don't get paid for, and it's quite exhausting, and it can be quite discouraging at times when you run out of steam and good intentions.
Yeah,
but
no,
being an artist, we just keep I think Andrew said that as well, you can't help it, we're just compelled to keep trying and keep doing it, and we live in Cumbria, and wouldn't it be great for these opportunities and to be happening here, you know, to be reaching out to the whole of the Cumbrian population and getting them to understand that art's something that can play a part in their lives, I think.
No, that's great, thank you. And I think I hope what that's kind of shown, just as a conversation piece, is the breadth of challenges that the community face, you know, small individual practice related stuff, or, you know, some of the sort of wider community challenges that we've got. And as I say, for me, this slide here that Tom's put up for me, who can help you address some or all of those? That wasn't a leading question. I must state that now. You know, it's about saying this, and the last slide were about saying, where are you now? What are the challenges that you're facing? And then how can we start to think about how we can address some of those? So yeah, I really appreciate everybody's honesty, and as I say, giving my assurances that we'll do our best to work with you moving forward with this stuff. If I can move on to the next slide, please, Tom. I'm conscious of time. But yes, working with the network members, really what I kind of touched on it a couple of minutes ago. For me, it's about visibility, being part of the community, being able to share successes in terms, and I don't mean successes in working with me, I mean successes in terms of what's going on. Think of us as a PR route as much as anything, as well as the conversations that we're having, being able to share opportunities, like I say, the examples with Kate earlier from Eden District Council. We have a grant fund that we're launching shortly around innovation net zeros. You know, being able to just let you know what's available, being visible on the network website, on the social channels, and also through our own stuff as well, via the LEP. I think, as I say, it's just about being visible, being accessible, and having those conversations. And I think, as I say, for me, you knowing that there is somebody there, me and my team, that want to help and guide you. But genuinely appreciate your honesty in some of the challenges that you put forward today. I think unless we sort of table this stuff, it's going to change. So it's been fantastic for me on a personal basis. It's been great. And I think, Tom, that is my last slide. Yes. I'll put my contact details in the chat, and I'll share them on the Facebook group as well, so you've got them if you haven't already.
That's been fascinating, Lynsey. Thank you for that. And what an interesting conversation with so many viewpoints about the Cumbria specificness of our situation, and also wider points as well. I mean, I think our relationship with the LEP, who obviously, well, I say obviously, why should it be obvious? They currently manage us, if you like. They look after our money. and we have a relationship with the LEP which goes back some way, and I think this is a practical demonstration of how the LEP can support artists and cultural organisations in Cumbria, and our relationship with Lynsey particularly will evolve and develop over the months and time ahead. So do look out for that, and I'm sure Lynsey will come back on a call in a few months' time as well, by which stage we'll have developed the website a little bit more, our website, and who knows, we might have some more good examples of ways in which the LEP have supported the cultural and artistic sector here in Cumbria. So Lynsey, thank you for that. Thank you to everybody for engaging that conversation as well. Look out for more information over the coming period of time. You know, a really good relationship that we want to develop a bit deeper, I think, as well. So thank you very much for your time, Lynsey, for those slides too. Right, it's coming up to 10:30. Before we finish, I'm just going to hand over to Kate, our chair, who is also just going to talk about some roles that are coming up on offer right now for this volunteering project. Kate.
Yes, so earlier this year, Cumbria Museum Consortium, which I work for in my day job, we secured just under £500,000 from the DCMS to run a county-wide inclusive volunteering project. So it's all about breaking down barriers to volunteering so that we can try and diversify our volunteer workforce. You'll probably all have experienced, if you've ever worked for an organisation, having groups of volunteers who tend to be quite homogenous, if you like, quite middle-aged, very white, quite middle class. Nothing wrong with that, but we want to diversify it so that our cultural organisations are more relevant and feel like safer places for other people who don't normally volunteer. So that's what the project's about, and it is county-wide, but we are dividing the county into 5 clusters. And to lead those clusters, we are recruiting 5 full-time inclusive volunteering leads. Those posts are advertised now, and no doubt Amy, in an efficient way, has put that link in chat. So please, 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 it's hard enough recruiting 1 member of staff at the moment. Recruiting 5 to the same post is going to be quite a challenge, and the project rests on it. So we would really appreciate your help. If you know people who would like to help us break down barriers to volunteering, working with a whole range of cultural partners and community partners across Cumbria, please share those details with them. We want to hear from people. They're full-time posts, but we will always consider part-time options. So let's get the word out there. The network has a role as a partner in this project, and that is to help spread the word. So please do your bit. We would really appreciate it. It's a great project. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. And we're going to hear more about Helping Hands next week on the Friday call, which actually will be the last for the summer. We're going to take a break in August, so we won't come back again until the first week in September. And we're going to major on the podcast, which is the first one is live now. We're going to do another one in a couple of weeks' time, but the next Friday call in a week's time will be the last one for about 4 weeks, and then we shall crack on in September. So that is the plan for the next few weeks. Thank you to everybody this morning. Thank you to Kate and to Lynsey in particular for sharing their insights. George has got a great looking book called The Glass Cat coming out, so that looks great. Good luck with that launch, George. Lots of other stuff going on across the county as well. If you need parking at Folk Fell, look for the tall man with the yellow tabard on. I'll try and point you in the right direction tomorrow. I know there's lots of stuff going on this weekend, which actually is quite outdoorsy as well. So I hope the rain sort of stays away a little bit after all that hot stuff we had a few days ago. Been a really interesting hour this morning. Thank you to everybody who's contributed to that. There is, of course, a recording of this call that goes live next week, and we'll all be in the same place, same time, next Friday at 9:30. Have a great weekend, everybody. Cheerio.